Jurassic Park!
Jurassic Park exploded onto cinema screens in 1993, stunning audiences with its groundbreaking mix of live action and CGI.
A phenomenal success, the film grossed over $900 million during its release, smashing the crap out of box office records.
The Jurassic Park IP became a steamrolling franchise machine with books, toys, video games, stationery, clothing.
Slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You're going to sell it.
So it's no surprise there are sequels. Oh, maybe another one. I think there might be another one. Keep your eyes open for that.
The Lost World Jurassic Park hit screens in '97, and boy did it hit hard. The hype around it being just as fevered as the first instalment, if not more so.
So, yeah. Jurassic Park!
2.
Returning mathematician Ian Malcolm travels to another dinosaur-infested island, the breeding ground for the creatures, to rescue his romantic interest, Julianne Moore.
But things don't go to plan, as a mercenary force of hunters, backed by InGen, the company behind the original Jurassic Park, arrive to capture the animals for another theme park-based venture.
Oh, I don't get that. It says InGen on the side of that chopper! I don't get that. Why would Hammond said 2 teams?
A simple, adequate plot for a simple, adequate film. One which we don't like, and these are the reasons why.
Ian Malcolm, I've been summoned.
Let's face it, as much as it pains me to say, Jurassic Park is the Avatar of its day. A big, expensive, effects-driven blockbuster, light on plot and big on spectacle. And where Avatar sold itself on its 3D, Jurassic Park sells itself on its dinosaurs.
The Lost World, however, doesn't really deliver on this. Sure, there's dinosaurs, lots of them. Maybe too many of them. But they're presented in an entirely different way from in the first film. Literally appearing on screen, full-bodied and well-lit within the first 2 minutes, instead of being teased out.
As Spock would say, the approach is logical. We've already seen the dinosaurs, so the mystery is gone. Might as well show them early on, being the money shots that they are.
But it changes the tone somewhat, as the creatures are no longer the unseen evils like the raptors were in the first film, but now literally jump out like overblown circus attractions vying for our attention.
In addition to this, the dinosaurs just seem dumber, especially the raptors, which are consistently foiled.
But if the dinosaurs seem to have been dumbed down, the humans are practically dragging their knuckles across the ground. At least in terms of their development and characterisation, though they do make some stupid decisions.
Be right back. Sarah, no!
He's got a broken leg. Let's get in the car before they hear us.
Out of your mind? Do you have any idea what that is?
Come on, open the door.
You're nuts.
The first film had one primary character arc, that being Alan Grant's growing affection for children.
Hey, look at this.
There's just no way of saying that without it sounding weird. It's a simple tale of one character growing through his experiences throughout the narrative, but an effective one.
The Lost World has one as well. Sort of. Ian Malcolm's daughter Kelly becomes trapped on the island as well, forcing the two of them to develop their rocky relationship, Malcolm being established early on as the absentee father.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know how much that meant to you.
You like to have kids, but you just don't want to be with them, do you?
But it never really goes anywhere. There's a few nods to the idea of them perhaps forming a stronger bond, but it's mostly play for laughs, and then her character is completely omitted from the final act, which we'll get back to.
Overall, it's the writing instead of the acting that we feel is the issue. And how could we not, with such beautifully crafted and tonally appropriate lines such as this?
They're just protecting their baby, so am I.
The Ian Malcolm character is pretty damn annoying in that regard, actually. The man is a slew of terrible jokes.
I'll be back in 5 or 6 days.
No, you'll be back in 5 or 6 pieces.
Sarah! Sarah Harding!
How many Sarahs do you think are on this island? For once in your life. Would it kill you to pick it up? I mean, it's not your fault. They say talent skips a generation, so, hey, I'm sure your kids are going to be sharp as tacks.
I wouldn't be going on this wild goose chase.
Where you're going is the only place in the world where the geese chase you.
In the end, there's only one character we found to be even vaguely well put together.
Portrayed by the late great Pete Postlethwaite, Roland Tembo is the chief hunter intent on capturing or killing a male tyrannosaur. It's alright, buddy. It's alright.
He achieves this goal towards the end of the film, and spends his final scene lamenting his decisions and the death of his friend, and decrying both his career and recent escapades in one line.
I believe I've spent enough time in the company of death.
He ends up being criminally underused though. His redemption arc could well have been carried on into the final sequence, with Tembo returning to take on the T-Rex as it rocks around San Diego.
What, we'll have a coupon day or something?
The film contains a curious environmentalist versus capitalist message, portrayed by these two groups.
I know you. You're that Earth First bastard, aren't you?
Hammond establishes this conflict, stating his intention to turn Site B into a nature reserve, as opposed to the new head of INGEN who wishes to make a new theme park and capitalise off the creatures.
The INGEN Corporation, represented by Peter Ludlow, are depicted as callous, uncaring, money-grubbing bastards out only to make a profit. He eventually gets fed to the wolves, but interestingly, the environmentalists are painted in a poor light themselves.
Particularly through the character of Vince Vaughn, who not only releases the captured dinosaurs, causing untold waves of death and destruction, but also sums up his sensibilities towards the environmentalist cause in this scene.
Greenpeace, what drew you there?
Women. 80% female Greenpeace.
Noble.
Yeah. Well, Noble was last year. This year I'm getting paid.
Not to bring the man up again, but Tembo is the only member of this conflict who comes off as reasonable, except for Sarah Harding, who is equal parts reasonable and boring.
He saves his rivals, acts with genuine competence, and laments his mistakes.
What's the matter?
He didn't make it. RJ.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The whole environmentalism thing just ends up being a bit weak. You know, kind of like just this bit. This filthy bit.
Hang on, this is going to be bad.
The film has a pretty big issue with its pacing. It's interesting to compare it to the first, seeing as in theory, they should be pretty similar.
In The Lost World, the plot literally throws us from set piece to set piece. The Stegosaurus battle, the Dino Stampede, the Tyrannosaur attack, with little more than exposition connecting them.
Jurassic Park still has its set pieces, but uses an important cohesive device, that being the characters back in the control centre trying to put the power back on. By cutting back to this group, we are given a sense of the passage of time, so it doesn't just feel like Grant and the kids are moving from one spectacle to the next. Instead, we're just dipping into their narrative at the important parts.
But there's another reason that the pacing seems so off. The Lost World races full pelt to its climax, so as to have enough time to slap on the entire fourth act, the ending to the third act, and arguably the story, being their rescue from the island, which occurs at around the 100-minute mark of this 129-minute monster.
This final part consists of a T-Rex dicking around San Diego causing a nuisance, and it is just utter shite. Honestly, there's little else to say. It adds only to the running time, containing nothing but a series of entirely uncomical moments.
It does, however, provide us with one of the most brilliantly glaring plot holes in cinema history. How the hell does the dinosaur, the T-Rex, that big guy, get out onto the boat, kill all the people on it, and then lock himself back in? Genius.
There's some story about a scene being taken out which included the velociraptors attacking the boat. I call bullshit.
We're not going to make a habit out of pointing out continuity errors, but that one is just balls to the wall madness, mate.
God creates man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs.
This film really suffers a lot from the bad tropes associated with sequels, especially ones that are kid-friendly. Everyone hates kids.
More money than sense.
Flat jokes.
Pointless cameos.
References to the previous, better film.
Life will find a way, as you once so eloquently put it.
And everything in general is increased to the power of 2. Literally. This film was a guilty pleasure, but dear Lord, does it make me feel guilty.
I think we made it pretty clear that we prefer the first film to the second film, despite the fact they're pretty damn similar.
Everything in The Lost World just seems so overt in comparison, even down to the dinosaurs themselves, who are almost always in full view and seem to be more heavily CGI based, resulting in them actually looking worse than the more practical based prequel.
Clever girl.
But, perhaps controversially, we also prefer the third instalment, Jurassic Park 3, to The Lost World. I know, crazy.
But at least it knows what it's trying to do. Upping the ante by throwing us into the dinosaur action pretty quickly, and including a new dinosaur threat, something which The Lost World didn't have. Just gives us more of the same, really, but doubles it. It's the Lost Worlds game.
Well, it did have the compies, but this guy is more impressive.
To be honest, every problem we've listed with The Lost World also appears in Jurassic Park 3. There's plenty of action beats and dud jokes, for example, but it just feels like it embraces its gimmicky roots a little more fully, and doesn't attempt to say anything beyond, look at these freaking cool dinosaurs.
All in all, The Lost World just feels like a retread of the same old material. Hardly an uncommon accusation to levy at a sequel, but it means that it all feels a bit redundant. The scene with the two T-Rex attacking the trailer is practically a shot-for-shot homage of the Rex vs. car scene in the original. A clever little touch in a way, but also a reminder of a vastly superior scene.
A final point, this, like the first one, is actually based on a novel by Michael Crichton, an author who famously never wanted to write sequels.
And, having read it, his dislike for sequels does seem to come through. I don't mean to cast any aspersions, he was a damn fine writer, but that book really does feel phoned in. Try and read the two back to back and you'll notice the difference. It basically has the same problems the film does, being a bland adventure story following on from an in-depth and intriguing sci-fi thriller.
The film has aged poorly and really doesn't hold the appeal that it once did when we were kids. But, maybe Jurassic Park 4 will bring it back. Or maybe it won't. It probably won't, because it's a crappy sequel. It's going to be a crappy sequel. George.
All in all, we wish The Lost World had never been found.
That's a wrap. It has to end with that.